One of our favorite rites of spring is chasing early season crappies in natural lakes, reservoirs, and river backwaters. In terms of action and fun, it's just plain hard to beat. It's a pursuit that recalls childhood memories of fishing with modest means. Springtime crappies didn't require fancy gear. Instead, we used whatever we could get our hands on, some live bait and a few hooks and bobbers. But what really worked wonders were long bamboo cane poles that allowed us to reach crappies buried in cattail and bulrush beds, almost impossible to reach by other means. Today we explore a modern take on this particular presentation from the past, employing the use of long spinning rods designed specifically for panfish species, dropping baits on crappies visually located in shallow, warming waters. It's a tactic used frequently by anglers in the American South, commonly referred to as dabbin', dappin', dippin', or doodle sockin', that harkens back to a simpler time of cane poles and pan fishing. And it's still a great way for anglers at any level to take full advantage of early season fish catching opportunities. On today's Edge, Jeremy Smith and Ty Sjodin search the springtime shallows for magnum-sized crappies, sight fishing with 10-foot rods, dropping jig and plastic combos in front of America's second favorite fish. We also discuss the differences in population dynamics between crappies and bluegills, and what anglers can do to ensure the future of a healthy pan fishery. Like selective harvest and releasing big, colorful male bluegills, the fish responsible for the entire size structure of a lake's fragile bluegill population. Now fill up your coffee cup and sit back. We've got some great doodle sockin' fun in store.
Got him. Isn't that fun?
Right
Just
out.
teasing him into it.
Closed captioning is provided by Smooth Moves, adjustable boat seat suspensions for a smoother ride.
Gotta get them before they get spooked, otherwise they
know.
won't bite.
There's one.
There's a good one.
All right. That's pretty fun.
Too bad, yeah.
Just kind of drifting through here looking for them. And I got a feeling this is not going to be the biggest one we catch of the day. Look at that. The classic crappie. Early in the spring. So Ty and I are doing something that everybody enjoys in the spring, and that's getting out and catching some panfish. But we're doing it a little bit different than a lot of folks might. We're doing what we like to call around the office doodle sockin'. We're using really long rods. These are St. Croix's 10-foot panfish rods. And we're actually just sight fishing for crappies. We're drifting through here, and you can be really specific, not casting, just putting the bait right in place. This is gonna be a good time catching big crappies early in the spring. Wow, look at the size of this one, Ty.
There we go.
Got him?
There's a nice one, Jer. I had to go back for a few times.
Oh wow, is that a big fish,
That's a good
Ty?
one.
That's a huge fish. You want me to get the net on that? Holy, look at the size of that thing, dude. Wow. I got the net, of course, buried in storage, but
Maybe I'll just reach over and grab this one.
wow, is that a big fish. Wow, is that a big fish.
They're getting bigger. Look at that. Magnums.
Magnum fish.
Yeah, I mean, you went past it and she got spooked and she actually came back around and I had to stick it in front of her like 2-3 times for her to finally grab it. But that's the nice thing about these longer rods. You can keep that bait in front of them longer even when we're moving along here.
Right?
When you're in the business of teaching people how to catch fish, you need to provide anglers with the finest equipment, backed with the knowledge of how to use it. It's all about blending science and technology with hardcore fishing experience and passion. It's a relentless commitment to quality because it's family, it's personal, and it's all about catching more and bigger fish.
There's a real boy there. Lund builds the best fishing boats, but did you know how affordable the best can be? Take the 1625 Fury XL side console, for example. Starting prices have been slashed, a savings of nearly $3,000. Or the 1625 Fury XL Sport walk-through windshield, a savings of over $3,000. Always wanted to get into a new Lund? Visit lundboats.com for your free catalog and to find a dealer near you. And take advantage of these great savings.
This time of year, I start to get real anxious. All I want to do is get out on the lake. That's my time. Time to hang with the guys, to have a little friendly competition. And you can't beat the adrenaline rush of seeing the fish come in. There's nothing like it. And there's nothing like a fresh fish fry at the end of the day with the gang. Mills Fleet Farm, serving the great outdoors since 1955.
This segment is brought to you by Big Bite Baits, designed to bring the big bite to your line.
Got one too, hooked up, not quite as big as yours, but a big fish, man. Wow. These are sweet. Sweet crappies, look at this, huh? Man, these are almost the nettable type of crappies. You know, not all lakes have crappies that are this size. They've got some very interesting population dynamics. It often doesn't take a lot of crappies to make a lot of crappies, but there's certain elements that of course contribute to the overall size structure of the population. But I'm not the true expert on this, so let's throw it to somebody who knows a lot about crappie populations.
What does it take to grow big crappies? We were actually talking about this in our office this morning even, and one of the things that we noticed is that some of these lakes that are this kind of middle of the road quality, and we talked about this a little earlier too, but this middle of the road quality water quality where they're relatively clear, decent vegetation, probably have some decent habitat, they have adequate recruitment, but it's not overly abundant. So we have the quality habitat like bulrush beds. Those are something that are key for a lot of species, but crappie do tend to use those quite a bit. And probably limited harvest to some extent. You know, we want to see the growth rates be good so that diverse fish community, the more well-balanced populations tend to be better growth rates overall for the crappie. Bluegill and crappie are nest spawners, and they usually nest in colonies or areas where there's quite a few of them around. All it takes is for a few beds to be successful, whether it's bluegill or crappie overall, and they can have up to 20,000, 30,000 fry from one given nest, which can actually support an entire population. So it doesn't take much successful nesting to create or maintain a given population. And one thing to really think about is that the bluegill have a tendency to grow quite a bit slower, for the most part about 1 inch per year. And it takes them a long time to get to that size. We have this parental male thing that's very important with larger bluegill. And basically the value of a large male bluegill that took almost 10 years to get to that 10, 11, maybe even 12-inch size range, it takes a long time to get there, and that fish is worth a lot in the population because it dictates the overall size or the maximum size that any individual can attain in that population. On the other hand, with crappie, it's not so critical, or at least from all the stuff that we've done and all the research that we've done over the years, it seems that even though males are important in the population, it doesn't seem to be at the same level as with bluegill. That said, it's still not a bad idea to return those larger males because they're important to the population overall. You know, larger lakes do have a tendency to offer the opportunity for I guess, more distributed harvest. In other words, there's opportunity that, you know, you might see them during the spawning time, or you might be able to catch a few during the winter time when they're concentrated to some extent. But honestly, when it's a larger lake, there's more opportunity to hide from anglers, and they're not as available as often. So it becomes a kind of a cat and mouse game, in that, you know, if you're looking for the bigger crappie, yeah, they can be grouped up, but where do you find them? The larger the lake, the more opportunity they have to hide, and it just makes them more difficult to get to, and for a number of anglers to get to them.
The technology that's available with the Humminbird Lake Master combo is truly amazing stuff. So one of the biggest tools that I use, aside from, of course, sonar and GPS on the unit, is something called depth highlight and shallow water highlight. Now in the spring, of course, you're looking for good shallow water. You're looking for that water in, say, 2 to 6 feet. So if I go into my Humminbird chart, scroll down, you can see depth highlight, so I can go plus or minus. So right now I'm at that 8 to 12 foot range. And for my shallow water highlight, I can set anything up, say in that, 6, 8, 6 feet or less. And I come up here, I'll go 10 feet plus or minus 4. So now everything from 12 to 14 foot is highlighted. So now you can see what a great little spot right down in here. You got the big shallow flats, plus you got a nice little green spot, a nice little staging area. In addition to that, a cool feature that's now available on all these Helix units is Auto Chart Live, this unit. So I just come on here, I select Auto Chart Live, I turn record on, and it's really that simple to start making your own maps.
There's no place like this.
Oh, wow! Unbelievable.
Big fish don't just fall from the sky.
Auto stow and deploy, power trim, and your choice of iPilot or iPilot Link. Ulterra from Minn Kota. We can't believe it either.
The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
So when it comes to finding these spawning crappies, there's a lot of lakes that have a ton of really good looking habitat. So what we like to do is either use the big motor, try and trim it way up, or just stay on the skirts of it, try not to destroy the vegetation, or run through with the trolling motor, or in this case we'll drift through. So many times, even if we see fish and we're going fast with the trolling motor or with the big motor, we'll just drop a waypoint on it and we'll keep going, and then we'll go back through that area and talon down. Right now we've just got a nice slow drift going. We're dropping waypoints down on, he's got a little northern, dropping waypoints down on where we see fish, and most of the time the fish will come back. So if you spook fish or you see fish in an area, it often pays just to sit, come back, sit, tailing down, and just wait 5-10 minutes, and pretty soon the fish will settle down. You can start to get into a good batch of them. Right now when we're in the looking stage, this is pretty convenient. I'm standing on the highest point in the boat and I'm running the Altera with the remote control, which is pretty darn convenient. I can just buzz around, control the speed. I've got my trim up, trim down. Anything that I need to do with the motor and its foot, you know, my feet are free, so I'm not actually fishing until I see fish. And then I've got the Talon, which is the best anchoring tool and just awesome when we do find fish. I've just got that attached to my belt loop here, so we're just going around using the Altera. I'll trim up, trim down as necessary, and then like when I see a fish like that, I can either tail him down or just try to drift by and catch him. See him, Ty? He's your shot. Wow, look at this one, guys.
Ready.
Look at the size of this one right here. That thing is enormous. Look at that thing.
See if she cooperates.
Oh, got him.
Oh!
You just barely dropped it in.
She really wanted that one.
That was cool. Said there was a couple.
There's a few
in
of them, yeah. There's one right to the left there, Jer. Boy, I tell you what, if you want to have a lot of fun, there's nothing better than catching crappies like this. I mean, this is a good, if you're going to eat crappies, this is a perfect size, you know, to keep and, you know, for table fare. And there's a lot of big ones we're catching here too. I mean, those are ones that I think you really need to let go and really keep our resource going.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
It's quiet on the river this morning. Ain't nobody on the water but me. And the sun is coming on, and it won't be long, but there's a little more weight coming in this creek. I got a line with that woman of mine, and she sent me on down that way. Now I'm making noise with the alligator boys, 20 miles east of Goshen. Making noise with the alligator boys, 20 miles east of Goshen.
Can't get enough Angling Edge? Wish you could learn more than you saw on TV? You can. Angling Edge DVDs dive deep into fish catching techniques that couldn't fit on air. It's like extra innings or overtime of Angling Edge. Choose from dozens of titles featuring your favorite freshwater fish. Purchase 5 DVDs at the incredible low price of $25. That's 5 DVDs for just $25. Purchase 2 sets and get free shipping too. Visit anglingedge.com to place your order. The Edge is presented by these and other fine sponsors.
Got him. Isn't that fun?
Right
just
out.
teasing him into it. So you get those ones that are locked on. A lot of times I usually like to just hold it above their head a little bit, see if you can get them to rise, but sometimes they just act like your bait doesn't even exist. So when that happens, usually what I'll do is I'll drop the bait down just below their chin a little bit and just pop it a couple times up really fast, and it's that reaction bite. No different than if you're fishing a jig and wrapper, you're snap jigging or something like that. Sometimes the fish is moved, they'll just come right up and get the bait, and usually that's the best way to approach it first. But if you're sitting on one, you know, with these long rods, you can just control exactly what that lure does and experiment with it, and you can end up catching these babies. When it comes to this kind of presentation for panfish, there's only one bait. It's the jig. Now beyond that, there's some fine points we want to talk about. You can get pre-rig baits, or just get the jigs and rig them up yourself. VMC makes many pre-rig jigs that work well for this application. The best baits for this type of fishing are the wingding, the flaptail, and the nymph. The reason these work so well is you don't need any forward movement for the tail to work. You can basically fish up and down and get good action out of the tail. Now VMC Moon Eye jigs are my favorite if you want to rig your own soft plastics. The Big Bite Crappie minnow is one hot little number. This straight shafted tail drives fish nuts. You can fish it horizontal or vertical, it really doesn't matter. The Big Bite Slab Tube's another bait we've done well on. The body on this plastic is pretty bulky and it triggers big fish. The tail on this bait works well with almost no movement, and all panfish love it. As a matter of fact, we caught some of the biggest bluegills today on this plastic. There's a nice one.
Jerry,
I might want the net on this one, Ty.
you want a net?
Yeah, look at this guy. That is just a great fish, and I'm going to talk about the retrieve that you can use on this presentation. You know, the long rods do a couple things. One is you can, if you see fish specifically, you can target them. You know, just hanging the rod, I'm holding basically the end of the rod and targeting an individual fish. And then secondly, what I'll do in this cover like this is I'm almost working like a pendulum. So you might cast it out, you got a little pocket there. Now basically with this long rod, I just pretty much hold the rod in place and I just let that bait kind of swing back towards me, rarely using the reel. And it seems to work dynamite. Obviously Ty was doing something similar there and just caught himself a big one. You need the net there, bucko?
They're all big ones. I think we could probably just scoop this one in. Thick fish though, I mean you can see that they are a healthy fish in this fishery.
The gear that we are using, this is, I mean, though it's panfish style stuff, this is really not that much different than if you were largemouth bass fishing in the reeds. The idea is you want a line that's tough, that can cut through the cover. You want your drag locked down. There's no play in this. We're fishing these smaller Daiwa reels. You don't need an expensive reel for this type of a deal, but lock your drag down. Just picture flipping a jig into the cover. You lock everything down. There's no give. You want to pull the fish out. And this nano braid, in terms of a line for panfish, is the most superior line that I've ever run across in my life. You can cast baits a mile in it. It cuts through, like I said, it cuts through cover amazingly well, and it is super, super tough. So look at this guy. Look at this one.
Nice
wow,
one.
another big one.
That's a Dan. You want this net again?
Yeah. Well, it's maybe not as big as I originally thought. It had just a big mouth on it.
Oh, well, when they get to be that size, they all look big.
Oh man, they do. They really do. Hey, we've said it today and we'll say it again. You want to have a good time in the spring. You want to try something a little bit different and a little bit new. Try getting some ultra long rods in St. Croix's Panfish Series. Come out, tackle the crappies and the reeds. It's a blast. I promise you'll have a good time.
Recently, I had an opportunity to speak at an outreach program for God's Great Outdoors. And I shared a little bit about my testimony, my faith, the fishing industry, and there was a series of other speakers there. One was a vet, and he shared some of his experiences in a combat zone, and there was a book there that they were giving away free. It's titled Tears of a Warrior. You could see I marked a lot of places in it. It really touched home to me. It's the story of a young soldier in Vietnam, 20 years old, when he went in. He shared his story. And the story, the purpose of the book, is how to deal with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Today, we're much more aware of what it is and how to deal with it. When we came back from Vietnam, we got a lot of guys out there still dealing with it. I was really, really moved by this book. I want to read you just a couple things. It is easy to ignore the full price a warrior pays for his participation in combat. Very few individuals who have not experienced serving in a battle zone can imagine the mass destruction, both physically and emotionally, it has on the body and the soul. The warrior stories remain largely untold. Their sacrifices minimized or forgotten, yet the cost of war, whether fought centuries ago or today, is staggering. Never again will they regain the innocence that will be forever lost, nor can they forget the horrors of blood, death, and devastation. Therefore, if a country makes the choice to send its young men and women into battle, it must then be fully responsible to do everything in its power to mend the body, minds, spirit, and souls that return. One more thing. Like I said, the book really moved me. For some who serve in combat, and specifically based on my experience from serving in Vietnam, there was no celebrated homecoming, no parade to honor those who served so valiantly. Most returned instead to a kind of embarrassing silence, as if they had done something shameful, and no one wanted to talk about it. Many have paid a terrible patriotic price for serving their country. Stunted careers, shattered marriages, physical and mental scars that refuse to heal have been far more common than anyone could have possibly known or anticipated. This book was emotional to me. I can think back to many of the experiences he talked about there. And when I came back out, I was a little bit messed up. Yeah, you know, just sorting through. I spent 11 months with the 1st Battalion, 40th Artillery on the DMZ, and we were support there for the 3rd Marine Division. Those 11 months were like a whirlwind. I seen things that I had to get out of my mind. And all I can tell you, I want to come back to that first part. Over the years, I had an opportunity now to talk to many vets and share my faith and how God's Word has set me free from things that I needed to be set free from. God's Word has that kind of power in it. So like I said in the beginning of this, we need to treat body, mind, spirit, and soul. God's Word is part of being free of something that many of us are dealing with today, our soldiers. I want to encourage you to pick up this book. It's a freebie. And you can kind of look it up on Amazon websites. Get it. Anybody that you know is a soldier that may be dealing with these issues, get them this book. And it is life-changing, and it's something that this country owes these men and women. Hey, from all of us here at The Edge, you have a good, safe fishing season. We'll see you on the water. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. And if you really like what you see, we got a whole lot more. So check us out at any one of these online outlets. You know, in fishing, there are good days and there are great days. Time is just a wink from the Almighty. We plan, target, rig, and play the game like everyone else.